Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, today we're back working on the Lucas horizontal boring mill and hopefully getting kind of toward the end here, being able to get this machine back in use. The part I've got over next to me is the tailstock for this machine. And this casting right here basically rests on top of this little saddle that moves back and forth on the milling machine. And what you've got is you've got a bronze bushing in here that when you raise and lower this, it raises and lowers with the head of the machine, and you can put a boring bar between these two, and this supports the boring bar to allow you to do line boring basically on this machine. So we need to get this back on. It needs to be cleaned up and painted. I am a little bit pleasantly surprised. I didn't remember until I got over there and started looking at it, but we've already stripped most of the paint off of this. Actually, I had a student worker that was working with me a couple of years ago, and he actually, I think, did most of the work on this. There is a little bit of work that still needs to be done before it's ready to paint, but the bulk of it's already done. So I need to kind of get it finished, cleaned up. I think what I'm going to do is once I get it cleaned up, we're going to go ahead and get it mounted on the machine, and then I'm just going to paint it in place to get it to match the rest of the machine. If you also kind of look back behind me, there's another piece on the pallet. This fits up on the ways, and basically what that is just an auxiliary table. It gives you some support. If you got something bigger than what fits on the table, you can actually set that to however wide it is and give you basically a wider table surface. Now that I think still needs to be mostly cleaned up. It's been partially cleaned up, but not totally. And the other thing I'm going to have to do on it is because we put turkite up underneath the saddle and the table on the main table, I'm probably going to have to put some turkite on that to get it in alignment. So we'll have to do some measuring and get, basically want the top of that auxiliary table to be the same height as the table behind it. That'll probably be a little bit later on. Right now I want to focus on getting the tailstock. Now as far as turkite on it, I mean, I could have put some up underneath this base, but I opted not to, mainly because the height of this is kind of timed with the height over on the spindle, and we didn't do anything to raise the spindle, so I wanted to keep this as close to original as possible. Now, once we get it up here, we're going to have to, at some point, do some alignment tests, and it may require some shimming up underneath this to get it where, as this piece raises and lowers, it's raising and lower in time over there with the main spindle, and to make sure that boring bar stays parallel. Like I said, we may have to do a little shimming. We'll just have to figure that out once we get there, and I'm going to have to figure out a way to properly measure that as well, but we'll worry about that when the time comes. I'm going to go get my angle grinder out, and probably not going to bore you guys with this, but I've just got a little bit more cleaning up to do on this to get it ready for some paint. Once that is done, we'll stick it over here and get it on the machine. Probably going to also do a little bit of body filler work. I'll show you guys a little bit later on, but at some point in time somebody ground a area out on the side of this tailstock. I'm sure they were needing a little bit of clearance for something that they were working on, and they just ground a little bit of metal out. Functionally, it doesn't hurt anything, but it does look bad, so I'm going to try to at least cosmetically make that look a little bit better. So we'll do that before we paint as well. All right, let's see if we can't get this thing cleaned up and back on the machine. Not all glamorous, guys. There's a lot of grunt work in this kind of work as well. I'm not going to bore you with it too much, but let's get in here and do some angle grinding. You can see how bent that one is. This is one I got out of my drawer over there. Not sure why that little zip tie's on there. I think they were on them when I got them. Let's go ahead and then put this in. I do have a nut on the bottom. I will just snug that down on there once I get it where I want it. we're gonna leave it like that, and I'll get a wrench and just jam that nut in place. All right, I like that better. I'm gonna try to take this piece off the front here. It kind of looks like it sandwiches between the front and the back. I think it'll just make it easier to clean up and paint if I can get it off. Shoulder bolt, interesting. That one goes all the way through. It looks like this plate on the back that rides up and down two ways is all connected to this cross piece here, and there's two bolts. I think if we take those out, it should swing out. I've got this slung up with the gantry holding it in place. Let me go ahead and pull these out. Looks like there's a pin in there as well, kind of holding it all together. Let me get a punch and knock those out. All right, we got that off. I'm going to let it down. And I'm going to put my safety chain back on here again. That will prevent this from flipping over. And now I got access in here to some areas I couldn't get to before to clean up for painting. And I think with that, I got access to everything. So we'll finish cleaning this up. And I'm probably going to put some body filler on this just because there was a lot of body filler on it before. There's still a lot of body filler on it, so just kind of smooth it out. That's what I had to do with the main castings over here. So we'll probably follow suit and do the same thing here. So let me do some more angle grinding, and we'll be back in a little bit. I have said it before, and I'm going to say it again. There's one thing I hate doing, and that is this body filler work. It is not my cup of tea. But if I'm going to get this job done, it's got to be done. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to do it. We're going to get it over with. I've got some of this body filler mixed up. This is what's it, Evercoat Rage, I think is the name of it. I've used it many times in the past, and it has always done a good job. So we're just going to get a nice thin layer on here, and we'll come back and sand it. This will greatly help smooth things out. Now right down here, I don't know if you can see that in the screen or not, right down here is an area where they had ground out part of the casting, so we got to put a little bit of a thicker area in there. I'm going to build it up. Now, I'm no expert in body filler by any stretch of the imagination, but I do know that you don't want to get it on too thick at any given time, so we will build that up. Let me go ahead and get this stuff put on here before it starts hardening, and we'll be back. All right, we got a coat of body filler on. I'm going to go ahead and let this harden for a little while, and we'll get a sander out and start sanding. and hopefully won't have to do too many coats of this stuff. I just want to smooth it out a little bit. Like I said, there was a lot of body filler on this originally. When we stripped the paint off, some of that came off, some of it stayed on. Had the same thing with the base down there. So we'll just go ahead and we'll let this set up for a little while and come back and sand. Fun, fun, fun. Not. We've let this stuff set up for a little while, and now it's time to start sanding. So I've got DA sander here, 36 grit, real coarse, just trying to get it smoothed out. Probably gonna have to put another coat on. If not, we'll sand it on down to something smoother. But we'll start out with a coarse grind here. Well, I've done some sanding here, got it cleaned up, got the ways taped off, and what I'm going to do is go ahead and hit it with a coat of primer. Once this primer dries, I can come back and see where any areas that I need to continue working on. So we'll just go ahead and put a coat of primer on this. And I can already see some areas that are going to need some more work, but this is the easiest way to see them. All right, well that doesn't look too bad for the first pass here. I'm gonna let this dry overnight. I'll probably come back and put a little bit more, in a couple of places where I see some, where it doesn't look too good, but it's just a matter of working through these layers and sanding things out. You can get a real nice finish. I'm not looking for sports car finish here by any means like that. Just trying to get it where it looks good. It's a casting, but anyway, we'll be back. We'll let that dry overnight. So I got all this cleaned up. We got it body filler in there. Went ahead and put a coat of paint on it. Probably going to touch it up again before it's all said and done. Got a couple places where it looks a little thin, but I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Up next, I'm going to go ahead and set this on here, and we're going to start working on. I need to get the plate put back in it that will have the hole in it that the bar will go through, and we need to do some adjustments to get the height of this to match the headstock over on the lathe. And I know right now they're way out of whack. So before I put this together, I did come in here and look at the pitch of this lead screw, raising this up and down, and count the number of teeth on the gear. In this lead screw, this is a 4 thread per inch Acme thread. So every time that gear makes one revolution, it's going to turn it 1/4 of an inch, quarter of an inch. There's 4 teeth per inch. So that's 250 thousandths, quarter of an inch. And then I counted the number of teeth on the gear. There are 36 teeth on the gear. So you take that quarter of an inch, that 250 thousandths, divide that by 36, and basically every tooth on that gear, when you turn it just one tooth at a time, it comes out to about 7 thousandths is about how high it's going to move it up and down. That's going to be good information to know when we start adjusting this, because we'll have to pick it up and rotate the gear by however how many teeth we need to get it where it's in the same plane, same height as the headstock. So I'm going to go ahead and just move this over here. We're just going to get it up over the top, and based on the fact that I'm bumping there, it tells me I need to come up a little bit more. That gear is on the bottom is hitting. we're just going to bring it right in here and move forward just a little bit. Now on this base there are 4 alignment holes and there's 2 dowel pins that will line everything up. And I'm just going to kind of drop it down here. Let's see. All right, I think that's got my dowels lined up. All right. All right, so now whenever we turn this crank, it should move that up and down. Let's just try it. Yeah, it's rotating that. That's good. And it's also rotating the headstock at the same time. They're timed together. So like I said, we're going to have to adjust these independently of one another, but that's good for right now. So let me go ahead and let's see, we need to get the parts mounted back in here. I need to pull this masking tape off and get it where we can make some measurements and start working on getting the height where it needs to be. Well guys, I think we're going to cut it off right there on this episode. We got the tailstock mounted back onto the machine. Up next, I need to get it aligned, set up where it's at the same height as the head so that it's all in one line. Right now I know they're not. And I've got an idea how we're going to do that. We'll be going over that in the next video. So come back soon. Hopefully get this thing finished up here real soon and we can maybe get to where we can actually start trying to use this machine some. That's the end goal. So guys, with that is going to be a wrap. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thumbs up, comments, greatly appreciated. Please hit that bell icon up there to get notifications when new videos are posted. And a big, huge thank you out there for all of the supporters of the site who support on Patreon, PayPal, etc. We could not do everything we do and bring you the content that we do if it was not for your help. And with that, guys, we'll catch you on the next video again. Thanks for watching.